Welcome to the Law Zoom, QE Zoom session. I'll just introduce myself. My name is Giles Bayliss. I'm a course leader for law, and I'm joined by Ellie White, one of the other law teachers. So really, this is an opportunity for you to find out a little bit more about the course. And if you've got questions you want to ask us, please fire away. I'll just say something about the course while we're waiting. So law is an exam-based course. There are 3 units. We have a unit of criminal law, which explores things like murder, non-fatal offences, some property crime. We also look at defences. So it's kind of finding out how law works, and these are things you can relate to. We have a unit of civil law, which looks at an area of law called tort law. You may have heard of some of these areas, some things like negligence. You might have heard of nuisance, noisy neighbours. So we do have a unit of civil law, a paper of criminal law, and we have a third paper which looks at human rights. Each paper is a sort of combination of problem questions. So scenarios where you have to identify the issues, explain and apply the law. There are also short answer questions. These are usually 10 or 15 minute questions on aspects of the legal system. So you not only find out about the law, you also find out about the legal system. So, a good understanding of law requires an understanding of the legal system and how law is made. We also have some essay components. These usually 30-minute essays, which explore some themes and concepts in law. Things like justice. How does law relate to justice? Law and morality, technology and law. And we have essay questions which ask you to evaluate the law. So, what makes law interesting is that not only do you find out about murder, but you also find out what's wrong with murder. You look at theft, but you find out what's wrong with theft. So there's a lot of evaluation. And the combination of the kind of problem questions, the short answer questions, that's what kind of makes the subject interesting, really. Ellie, do you want to say something about the course?
Yeah, we could talk about the exams themselves. So you sit 3 exams at the end of your 2 years. Each exam is 2 hours long. Your first one is going to be your legal system and criminal law, so that would be in the same paper, and then you've got your second paper, which is the lawmaking and the civil law, and then your third one is those essays and the human rights. Now, the way that we teach this isn't necessarily in the way that you would be assessed on it, but we teach it in a way that kind of flows nice and it all makes sense. Okay, I can see that we've got a question through here, Giles. Someone has asked, is criminology similar? Would you like to answer that one?
Right, well, one of the courses you can take at college is criminology. So what I'd say is that criminology obviously has a focus on criminal law and why people commit crime. So it has there is an element of overlap. You do look at some aspects of the legal system, why people commit crime, things like sentencing. So there is a degree of an element of overlap. The assessment is a little bit different, and obviously in the law course we look beyond criminal law. So there's an element of overlap there. I can see there's another question here about politics and law. I'll answer that one, shall I, Ellie? And then so politics and law also combine well. I mean, politics does look at lawmaking. It looks at lawmaking institutions. It looks at the role of Parliament, and that's obviously what we do. And some of the skills will also sort of combine. Obviously, in politics, you're kind of assessing things, weighing them up. So there's a lot of analysis in politics, and there's a lot of evaluation in politics. So there's some element of kind of crossover in that politics. You look at how people go about reasons behind lawmaking. So you'll understand about the role of Parliament, and we look at that as well. Ellie, do you want to take one of these?
Yeah, so there's got a couple here. So a few people asking, what do we recommend to take with law? Really, I think that depends on, what you're wanting to do after potentially. Law is one of those really good subjects where, the skills that you get from it, they're transferable to absolutely everything. So, you know, you don't necessarily have to go on to do a law degree or become a barrister or anything like that. But the skills that you get from it set you up really well to go into anything. You know, you may want to go into the police, you may want to, you know, go on to work in human resources, something like that. I think really it depends on what you're going to be interested in and what it is that you're going to enjoy. But the subjects that we find a lot of students will do, psychology is a very popular choice to go alongside law, as is English language. Politics has already been mentioned. So they're very kind of common ones, as well as history. But I think you kind of have to look at the other subjects that you're going to enjoy. You have to be looking at how they're assessed. So, you know, for example, we're all exams. Some subjects may have 20% coursework. You may find that that would be beneficial, as opposed to 3 subjects that are all exam based.
I mean, I'd say law combines well with a wide range of subjects, really. So there are subjects where you know, law requires good written skills. So if you were, say, doing English or a lot of the humanities subjects, they develop your written skills. So they combine well with law. But law also requires kind of good analytical skills and logic and reasoning. So if you say a math student, you've got those skills of logic and reasoning. So law combines well with a wide range of subjects, really. I'll just answer that question about, do you get to have your own opinions in law? Well, the nature of law is it's a subject that requires debate. It requires, you know, you to be able to analyze things and to put forward arguments. And we talked before about these problem-based kind of questions. You get given a scenario, you know, Fred's walking down the street, X happens, Y happens. And often there is no definitive answer. You have to come to a conclusion and justify it. So we very much encourage you to have opinions, but those opinions have to be supported and they have to be sort of justified. But having opinions is important in law, and that's probably what holds your interest. You know, because it's a very topical subject, and you know we're constantly looking at law in the news and legal developments. So having an opinion, I would say, is kind of a vital, really, as a law student.
There's a couple of questions here kind of about how the course is structured. So I think if I just take those ones. So someone has asked how many lessons a week and how long are they? So at QE, all of your subjects, you will have 5 hours of contact time. That will be over 4 different lessons. So you'll have 2 hour-and-a-half lessons and you'll have 2 hour-long lessons. So, you know, it may be on a Friday, you don't have law, for example. You will be in each day, but you won't necessarily have all of your subjects because of the way that they are blocked. So I hope that's answered that question. Someone has also asked about the entry requirements. So we do have those standard college entry requirements. You know, I think it is 5 GCSEs at a grade 4 or above. We also require English language or literature at a grade 5 or above. You know, Giles has explained already, you know, those written skills that you need in order to, you know, really do well in law. So that's why we have that requirement.
Shall I take one of these, Ellie?
Yeah.
Is law a difficult subject? I mean, there are no easy A levels. I mean, law is an interesting subject. So, like any A level, it's about you know, you approaching, you know, your studies in a kind of systematic way, being organised. But it's a subject that we have students with a wide range of abilities, and it's an accessible subject. So it's really the key question is your interest, really. You know, is law a subject that's going to interest you? So one of the things I would advise you to do is we do have a kind of through the college website you can access a kind of a dummy law website, and there are resources and there's lots of information. There's advice from current students. There are things you can try. There's a way of contacting us via that. So there's plenty of resources and things you can find out about the subject to help you make your mind up. There was another question here about...
Sorry, I'm just going to go in there a second. We also have a Twitter page. If you have Twitter, please do follow us on there. We post a lot of current issues. You know, when there's judgments handed down from the Supreme Court, if they are relevant to our exams and our content, we'll retweet them. You know, we get different opinions from judges or barristers, authors, things like that. So there is a lot of good information on the law Twitter page. It is just at law_QE, I believe. But if you go onto the site that Giles has just mentioned, then you will be able to find it on there.
Someone's asking for some advice about becoming a solicitor. So typically, to become a solicitor, you would undertake a law degree, which is 3 years, and then you would do a further year of kind of specialization. Although things are changing as we speak, and there's a move towards kind of joining a law firm and training in-house. So things are changing, but typically you do a law degree. And to do a law degree, typically you need 3 good A-levels. So obviously one of those A-levels could be an A-level in law, and there's lots of advantages to doing an A-level in law. It first of all gives you an insight into kind of what it's going to be like to study law. It's also giving you a head start. You know, we have lots of students who go on to study law at university, and they always sort of report back that having studied law for 2 years has given them a real head start and an understanding that lots of other students don't have. So, you know, we think law is very useful. It's a subject you don't have to want to pursue a career in law. An A-level in law is just a useful A-level to have. It gives you skills. It gives you an understanding of how law affects society, and whatever you go on to do, you're likely to encounter law. So it's a very useful subject just for that reason alone. Yeah. You want to take a question?
Yeah, sorry, I've just seen a question here. Sorry, I just went quiet there just to get these statistics. So somebody has asked how many students on average pass and how many get higher grades. So I've just found those statistics there. In 2019, we had a 99% pass rate, and our high grades, so from B to A star, was 46.5%. So this is quite consistent with our results. You know, our students do really well. They get a lot of support from us. You know, we often run additional revision sessions, and you know, we provide a lot of resources from them. So our students, they do really quite well.
Good. I've answered some of these already. Criminology and psychology we've kind of done. Just a general question: can you take 4 subjects? In theory, you could. Universities aren't only want 3 A-levels, and the new A-levels are quite demanding. So in terms of workload, the college, some students will take 4 A-levels, but it's not a requirement, and you'd have to have a discussion with kind of college management about that. But it's not typical, not any longer, simply because of the nature of the new A-levels, the reformed A-levels. And universities are not looking for 4 A-levels, so you're far better focusing on 3 core subjects, really, given the demands. Do we learn about real life court cases? Well, I'll tackle it, and then Ellie can chip in. I mean, all court cases are real life. I mean, that's what makes law interesting. Every single we look at court cases constantly, and they're all kind of things that have happened. So, you know, so you're looking at things that you're looking at real life. You're also looking at kind of history, really, because the history of our nation is the history of law. So every court case is about something that's happened, and often, you know, pretty much every single case we look at is a case that's gone on appeal. So that every case we look at is something legally important and legally significant, and often these cases will develop the law in a new direction or clarify some legal issue. So, you know, there was a question before about, you know, what do we debate? Well, you know, we debate anything that's in the news. So, for example, there's a case before the Supreme Court recently about Shamima Begum, who went to Syria to join ISIS, and the question is, you know, whether lawfully we can take away her citizenship. Has she got the right to come back to Britain to stand trial? So there are constantly cases coming before the courts. You know, cases about sentencing. What is an appropriate sentence? Constantly news. Ellie, do you want to join in?
I would just say follow us on the Twitter page again. We often bring things up like this. I know that so we share our classes. So on Giles' side of the course, they just started consent. They've had a look at a case involving a man who was doing body modifications. So this was relatively recently, I think it was only in the last couple of years. So we had a look at that on Giles' side of the course. You know, we often look at more recent cases that are happening, you know, especially with like sentencing and like legal aid, as Giles has just said as well. I mean, all of our cases are real life, yes. We do try to link things and make them as contemporary as we can. We've got a few students here, Giles, talking about trips. Would you like to take that one?
Yeah, so obviously we're not in normal times at the minute, but you know, what we try to do is make, you know, law as interesting as possible. So we do various things. We tend to go each year to Teesside University. They have an annual law conference. That tends to be very good because they offer us a, you know, a range of kind of sessions and seminar groups and opportunities to kind of to find out what it's like to study law at university, but also to kind of to get an input from university lecturers about law. We've been to Sunderland University as well, and they've laid on seminars for us. They did a whole study day for us, where we followed a kind of a kind of police case, a case from the police station to trial. I mean, Ellie took that trip, so you can explain that. But one or two other things. We've been to the theatre to see some sort of to some law-related kind of theatre. That's Kill a Mockingbird. The courts, of course, that's something we've done on a quite regular basis. So obviously we try and get students out of college to kind of and we also bring speakers in. So as I say, speakers from the CPS, ex-students who come and talk to us about working in law. So we try and kind of have a kind of mix of kind of extracurricular type activities. Ellie, did you want to add anything?
We do try to vary it as much as we can, where we can. We do have very close links with some local universities. I know that Giles has mentioned Sunderland there, but we're also quite well connected with Teesside. We do quite a lot, you know, Sunderland and Teesside, they like to work with us as much as we like to work with them, and we get some really excellent trips and days with them. So I know that Giles has just mentioned the like police station interview that Sunderland did, and it was really excellent. And so basically we had gone, they gave us a case, they talked us through the law a little bit, and then our students got to answer it, they got to take part. We were trying to figure out whether or not the arrest and the stop and search was lawful. We then had plans to go back into their mock courtroom in Sunderland, but unfortunately that had to be cancelled. We weren't able to do that. But we do have a lot of, you know, really useful events that we can put on. You know, it gets students used to looking at not just the law that we teach, but the other bits of the law that's really interesting, that's going on everywhere else. And we do try to have a look at some of the more like practical sides of the law as well. I know some students, a couple of people here have asked about like independent work and class sizes. So in terms of independent work, all of your subjects will give you the 5 hours of content time. So you will spend 5 hours with your teachers. We then say that you should be doing at least 5 hours of independent work as well. Now that could be completing your homework, it could be making revision notes or writing up sample answers, but that is roundabout what we would expect from you throughout.
We're picking some of these answers, some of the questions. We'll try and get through them all. There's one here about do we learn about laws in other countries? Well, we have a unit of human rights, and obviously human rights is kind of something international. So we do kind of understand law from a kind of wider perspective. We're particularly interested in what's called the European Convention on Human Rights, which applies across 47 countries. So we are kind of understanding, we do kind of look at law beyond our kind of borders, and we do kind of understand how law develops on a kind of international basis. So that we have a kind of entire unit which looks at human rights, which is really fascinating. We look at 5 human rights. So we look at the right to liberty, we look at the right to a fair trial, we look at the right to privacy and family life, we look at freedom of expression, and we look at freedom of assembly and association. So we have quite an in-depth look at human rights and the impact of the Human Rights Act. So that's probably the way which we kind of look at kind of law externally. Okay, so I think that answers that one.
I think we're going to have to wrap it up roundabouts now. I'm really sorry that we've not been able to get through everybody's questions. If you do have questions that we haven't been able to answer, please do get in touch with the college and they can pass it on to us. You know, we can then get in touch with you and answer that. But if you go and check out the website that we've got on the college homepage, then that might be able to answer any of your questions if we haven't been able to.
Are we about to finish? Or we got 10 minutes? I thought
we have to finish at 10 to.
Okay, right. Well, yes, as Ellie said, if you've got any further questions, please do contact us. We'd be very happy to answer those questions. So the details are on via the college website. And good luck with your studies for the rest of the year. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.